Imagine watching a movie that asks whether your memories are fake, your city is artificial, and reality itself is being controlled by a higher power. Now imagine seeing all of that a full year before The Matrix. That's exactly what Alex Proyas did with Dark City. And the craziest part is how massive this sci-fi epic still feels, especially because Proyas built this nightmare world for less than half of what The Matrix cost to make. In many ways, Dark City built the foundation for The Matrix, but went about it in a totally different way. In the late 90s, visual effects were still the next big thing. Titanic was still playing and swept all of the awards, but the team behind Dark City looked at all the trends in CGI and basically said, no thanks. Instead of letting computers do the heavy lifting, they decided to build an entire sprawling metropolis by hand inside a giant studio in Australia. Almost nothing you see is an actual location. Production designer Patrick Totopoulos came up with a neat little trick called the modular jigsaw blueprint. Instead of building normal continuous streets, the crew constructed puzzle pieces. You could stand in one corner and look at a wall that looked like 1940s London, turn around and see a storefront from Depression-era New York, and look down the block at an industrial factory from Berlin. It completely breaks your sense of geography, making the city feel infinitely massive and unnervingly unnatural. Many of the walls and storefronts leaned inward slightly, just 5 or 10 degrees, barely noticeable. But when the camera looked down those streets, your brain interpreted the buildings as much taller than they really were. This is a classic optical illusion called forced perspective. The production also built real ceilings onto many of the interior sets, closing many of those spaces completely. The apartments, hallways, and interrogation rooms feel claustrophobic, and you never see the horizon outside. Everywhere you look, you are confronted by endless walls. They painted these sets using a heavy mixture of plaster, real grit, and oily glazes. The colors were charcoal grays and umber browns. It all looks ancient, like it should have an interesting history, but the history is all fake, which is the point.
Daylight. When was the last time you remember seeing it?
Because it's a mystery, the film plays out like a detective noir, where we have a detective, but he's not the main focus. John Murdoch is. He wakes up in a bathtub with no memory and a dead body in the next room. Then things get even stranger. Every night, time freezes so a group of pale aliens wearing human bodies can rearrange the city and rewrite everyone's memories. That insane premise is exactly why the city is shape-shifting all the time. To light this world, Proyas brought back Dariusz Wolski, who also shot The Crow. He didn't want the movie to look like Batman or Dick Tracy. While all three lean heavily into German expressionist lighting, Dark City has the best reason to. It is called Dark City after all, and the sun never shines here, but it also hides all the physical limits of the set. Notice how the camera almost never gives you an aerial shot of the city. Your view is constantly blocked by something. The movie limits your perspective so your imagination never has room to wander. They achieve this by using longer lenses which compress space and bring things closer, making it even more claustrophobic. Space is at a premium, which is also a big part of the story. Another aspect of the lighting that you should pay attention to is the highlights. They're too bright, so your eye naturally corrects for them by making the shadows even darker. The lighting is motivated by hard sources like flashlights, bare overhead fixtures, street lamps, neon signs, and so on. It's all motivated by what's in the scene. Another visual distinction is how smoke and haze are used. Batman uses it heavily. Dick Tracy barely uses it. But here the haze is what gives everything texture. Somewhere in between. Before shooting exterior scenes, the crew would spray water everywhere because wet pavement reflects light beautifully on camera. It's one of the oldest tricks in filmmaking because it works almost every time. The strangers are often top lit, so their eyes sink into shadow. They look a little too pale because they're basically aliens inhabiting dead humans. Thankfully, you also get to see Jennifer Connelly. Her scenes often contain softer lighting and warmer tones, making her feel more human than anyone else. Even though the predominant color of Dark City is gray and brown, there's a healthy dose of green going around. That's because Wolski liberally used commercial fluorescent tubes and deliberately refused to use color-correcting filters. This forced the film stock to capture a heavy, nauseating green tint that sucks the warmth right out of human skin, making everyone look sickly.
Sleep.
Because of all these constraints, the camera movement stays restrained. You get slow dolly shots and creeping camera pushes. This gives the effects team more flexibility when combining miniatures, practical photography, and visual effects. A huge amount of the skyline was built using miniatures instead of full CGI, and those miniatures were carefully lit to match the practical sets exactly. That consistency is a massive reason why the city still feels tangible today. It also explains why they shot it on Super 35, so all the lines could stay straight and sharp, something hard to get right with anamorphic lenses. The editing helps add to the confusion, especially in the first half. The cuts feel intentionally disorienting and a bit too frantic, which piles on the "what the heck is happening here" vibe. In the second half, the editing gets clearer and the pace picks up. I also love the music in the second half, and it ends on a heroic note. So the real magic trick behind Dark City is it hides things from you and then unleashes the truth for a grand, satisfying finish. It's basically the same hero's journey as Neo in The Matrix, or any story inspired by Plato's cave allegory. The Matrix stole the spotlight, but if you look closely at the timelines, Dark City did it all first. The script was written earlier, the cameras rolled earlier, and when you look at some of the locations, you notice something strange. When they finished filming, the crew left the massive Art Deco street standing on the sound stages. A few months later, The Matrix reused parts of the same standing sets and used them to film the iconic opening scene. When you watch the beginning of The Matrix, you are literally looking at the physical bones of Dark City. They're both really satisfying sci-fi epics of the best kind, but that's where the similarities end. When Dark City was finally released, studio executives panicked because they thought the plot was too smart for audiences. So they forced a clumsy voiceover onto the beginning that practically ruined the mystery. The movie tanked at the box office, but time is a funny way of correcting mistakes. Now that the director's cut has finally stripped away the studio-mandated voiceover, we can see what a profound visual achievement this movie truly is. Alex Proyas likes cities that look wounded. The Crow had a similar vibe, almost belonging to the same universe. He doubles down on it with shorts like Mask of the Evil Apparition and Dark Sister. You should check out his YouTube channel. It's got tons of interesting videos that show you his style is to trust your imagination to meet his halfway. Lastly, we can't talk about Dark City without talking about the actors. Rufus Sewell spends most of the time confused and exhausted instead of heroic, which fits perfectly inside a city that keeps rewriting reality. Kiefer Sutherland makes Dr. Schreiber feel like he's got a live wire stuck to him. Is it just me, or did anyone immediately think of the Crystal Maze watching Richard O'Brien? The Strangers became some of the most memorable sci-fi villains of the 90s. Every actor commits completely to the bizarre premise, which makes them collectively feel believable, no matter how strange it gets. All this is why Dark City still looks so real. Every single creative decision pulls in the exact same direction. While a lot of late 90s CGI now looks dated, the tactile craftsmanship of Dark City remains timeless. It is a masterclass in making a small budget look like $1 billion. Hit subscribe before YouTube rearranges itself.